What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, we did have the Summer Game Fest presentation from Jeff Keighley, and there were a lot of games announced there. However, there were certainly some big-time standout games, so we're going to go over some of the highlights here, and yeah, that includes that really big announcement at the end of the show that everyone was talking about yesterday. Also, we're going to be talking about EA and a pretty serious data breach that has taken place with over 780 gigabytes of source code from some of their different games, as well as the Frostbite engine finding its way online. And we're also going to be going over a closed door presentation that Microsoft had ahead of E3, talking about the future of cloud gaming and their consoles. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with a very interesting product that certainly gives me flashbacks to those little screens that we would have for like the PlayStation 1, the little slim system, or even the PS2 and the GameCube. Take a look at this here. This is called the X screen. There was an entire promo video put up for it, and it appears to be one of those kind of screens you would attach to the back of your Xbox Series S, and it'll fold down, kind of mimicking what you would see with a laptop, for example. And the Kickstarter they have is set to launch summer 2021, and they appear to have an early bird pricing and savings set up and just kind of product info in general. So they have a website right now where you can kind of put your email if you want to be up to date on it. I like the idea of these screens, and I had one on the PS1. I didn't have one for a GameCube or a PS2 back in the day, but it makes sense if you want to at least have it somewhat portable. I mean, you still have to plug it in, obviously, to get power to the system, so you're not running off of batteries or anything like that, but it does make it a bit more convenient to kind of set up somewhere, plug in, and start playing. Now, I need to see things like pricing, of course, around this. It might be something I'll check out when they do start releasing these. Also, you remember back in January, Nintendo, for some weird reason, put up Kingdom Come Deliverance on their own website for the schedule of Switch releases, and then they pulled it back down. It appeared like the game was going to go to the Switch at some point, but it seems strange because the game has a hard enough time running on like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, so it seemed like people kind of dismissed it as maybe an accident, but it still seems strange. Well, it turns out that game actually is coming to the Switch, and it was announced. This is from Prime Matter, which we're going to get to here in a bit during the Summer Game Fest, that being a new publishing label under Co-Media, and it does look like they are setting this up for a Switch release, and that is going to be an interesting one because after I mentioned it online, people were saying, hey, maybe it's a streamed version of the game, and I don't see any details around how this is going to go down, so it's possible, but maybe they really are putting this on the Switch. We've seen Witcher 3, so sure, why not Kingdom Come Deliverance? We'll look forward to more information about this and certainly some gameplay when they decide to reveal that. Oh, and I have good news for all of you Super Monkey Ball fans out there. It looks like we might be heading towards a reveal of a new game in the series, possibly at E3. Take a look at this, spotted by Gamatsu, where they say Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania rated for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC in Brazil. It was also rated before, I believe, in Australia, so this isn't necessarily a new thing that's been spotted, but it also being rated in other regions, again, ahead of E3, is starting to make people wonder, okay, it appears like it's getting set up for a big reveal. Obviously, E3 is coming up here, so it makes sense to show it there. The only thing is, I'm curious as to what this is going to be, but this is still the company that decided it was a good idea to do like Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD rather than go back and remake one of the first ones that we had on like the GameCube, for example. Still though, exciting news for Super Monkey Ball fans out there. So we'll just kind of keep an eye out for maybe this reveal next week. Exciting stuff there though for fans of the series. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Summer Game Fest. This took place yesterday. It was like a little over 90 minutes. It was like an hour and 40 minutes or something like that. And I did live stream it. And it was okay. It had a lot of moments where it wasn't very exciting. Like there were times where it's kind of talking to different people who were in games or developers of games, and not a lot of information came out from it. And then we had, of course, like musical performances, which were fine, but I ended up having to mute as many of those as I could so that I didn't get copyright claimed or struck too hard. Still got copyright claim, but that's the way it goes with streaming these things. It's expected at this point. So I picked out some of the reveals here, but I would still go back and take a look at either some of the press releases, some of the coverage for it, which I'll link down below to a site that actually went through every single reveal. There were quite a few of them, but obviously there were some standouts. So let's take a look here, starting with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. That is coming out early 2022. Appears to be kind of a spinoff from the Borderlands universe there. So really cool to see that for Borderlands fans like Jordan. I'm sure we'll get his take on this this weekend on the podcast. One of my favorite reveals from this show, however, was Metal Slug Tactics. I was not expecting this, and as someone who keeps calling for Advanced Wars to make a return, I mean, this is still something that's at least similar to it. I like the idea of taking a franchise like Metal Slug and kind of trying a new spin on it with the tactics genre. That's coming to PC, so we'll keep an eye on that a bit more. Death Stranding is getting a director's cut. That's coming to the PlayStation 5. This has been rumored for a little while now, and Jeff Keighley did also talk with Kojima, trying, I guess, to get some information around his new game. Remember, that appears to be rumored where he's kind of working out a deal with Microsoft, maybe to do something more cloud-based. And I mean, I'd be really interested to see what Kojima could come up with using like Azure or just an overall cloud service to go along with it. So that's an interesting idea there. Kind of the trailer they showed for it was certainly kind of poking fun at Metal Gear in general with the box and Sam kind of jumping into the box, not really unsure how to use it. Kojima likes to put a lot of meaning into some of these things, and he puts the box back on the shelf, maybe saying, hey, you know what? No Metal Gear now, we're putting that one away. Then we have Jurassic World Evolution 2 that's coming to the Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Exciting stuff there for fans of Jurassic World Evolution and kind of the Park Builder franchise there. And then we had Co-Media revealing their new publishing label. This is Prime Matter, and this is what we talked about before with Kingdom Come Deliverance going to the Switch. They're handling that, and they also announced a new Painkiller game. I was not expecting to be talking about Painkiller today. It's been a while since I played this one. I remember playing this on PC, and then it was also on the original Xbox, and I checked it out there. So that's interesting. Evil Dead was shown. It's coming out 2021 for all platforms, so PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, PC, all of this. And this is a franchise that makes a ton of sense to make into like a Dead by Daylight or Friday the 13th style multiplayer game. And you know what? It looked pretty good, so I'm sure fans of those series will be looking into Evil Dead. Pretty cool. And then we got to the end. This was the big reveal. This, for a lot of people, probably saved the entire show. And that is Elden Ring's reveal. Finally, well, I guess update really, because we've had it revealed before, but since its initial trailer, it's been silence until now. In fact, we got something I was not expecting. A release date. It's coming out January 21st, 2022. This game is out in 7 months. I was not expecting it to be coming out in less than a year. That is very interesting stuff. A lot of other information has come out, which includes like free upgrade to the next gen versions with an update patch they're going to put out. 4-player online multiplayer, so that's interesting as well. But the overall trailer they showed made people really excited because the game, from what they've shown so far, looks really good. It looks like a FromSoft game, and that's what the fans of FromSoft wanted to see, of course. So Elden Ring looked great. A lot of excitement online because we finally got that big reveal. And you know what? It makes sense for Bandai to have it here rather than kind of put it somewhere in the overall crowded space of E3. I mean, everyone's talking about Elden Ring yesterday. They'll probably be talking about it today. And leading into E3, a lot of coverage for the game that wouldn't have been lost in the E3 shuffle, but certainly would have kind of been next to a lot of things in the news. So really cool way to end out a show. Very strong note, I would say. But a lot of people were saying, it was okay. It had some highlights, obviously, like Elden Ring. I thought Metal Slug Tactics was cool, and fans of Borderlands probably enjoyed the first reveal right off the bat. But it was, to me, it was at least, I'm going to say half an hour to 45 minutes longer than it needed to be, but still, it wasn't a bad way, I think, to kind of kick off E3 season, which will continue tomorrow, obviously, Saturday, and then into next week, which the next show I will be streaming will be the Xbox E3 showcase. That'll be midday on Sunday, so make sure you stop by here on the channel, and we'll see what Microsoft has. But you know what? not bad, Jeff. I would say this was okay for me looking through it with certainly some big highlights like Elden Ring. Next up, let's talk about this closed door presentation that Microsoft had for media as they went over their plans for cloud gaming and talked a bit about their consoles and their strategy there. Let's head over here. Windows Central had a bit of a summary, makes it pretty easy to show you guys, with Microsoft shared evidence that Xbox Game Pass is lifting retail sales of games while noting that consoles will remain their flagship effort. That's very important, by the way, because I saw a lot of people looking at this and saying, okay, they're moving away from consoles. No, it actually appears that they are accelerating their hardware division when it comes to gaming, which we're going to talk a bit more about here. So no need to worry about like the Xbox brand. Oh, is it just going to go all streaming? No, they definitely want to have some sort of box in your living room at all times with the Xbox logo and brand all over that. Xbox Game Pass Cloud Gaming is coming to Australia, Brazil, Mexico, and Japan later in 2021, and the Xbox Series X server blade upgrade is in its final stages. This is very important there, as well as I'm sure that was affected by the overall chip shortage, because while they are trying to get Xbox Series systems into stores, they're also trying to set these things up in their data centers so that you can stream from a more powerful system than like the Xbox One S or even One X right now that's being used in those data centers, which I assume this will also work to get them to their final stages of having 4K streaming. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that. But they did also talk about the idea of having other pieces of hardware, which would include things like a streaming stick. Now, this is something that Phil Spencer had kind of alluded to before, that you wouldn't necessarily need an Xbox to play Xbox games. You could use a streaming stick. You could use your cell phone. You could even use your own web browser or an application in your smart TV. And that was mentioned here, where they are working with TV manufacturers to get some kind of like Xbox application just preloaded. You start up your TV and there's Netflix, there's Disney Plus, there's Amazon Prime, and then there's Xbox. And you would just use a controller. In fact, it wouldn't shock me if we get to a point where Microsoft just starts packaging Xbox controllers in with TVs, maybe with Samsung. Like you buy a Samsung TV and in there, along with your remote, you get an Xbox controller. For Microsoft, that would probably make a lot of sense as long as they can work it out with Samsung so that they can get you to what is their true destination. That's Game Pass. Remember, Microsoft is a services-based company first, and the hardware gets you to that software. So even if you had to throw in an Xbox controller and kind of eat the cost on that, in the long run, it makes sense for them. And again, just for anyone who is concerned about the whole cloud gaming thing taking over their hardware division with Xbox, we can actually see this quote here, where they say, "We're already hard at work on new hardware and platforms, some of which won't come to light for years, but even as we build for the future, we're focused on extending the Xbox experience to more devices today so we can reach more people." And again, if they can just get Game Pass or an Xbox app onto devices you already own, you'll be more likely to try it out because it's right there. You don't have to go out and buy something extra necessarily. So I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, a streaming stick, maybe some sort of handheld device if they can't work it out with Nintendo so that you can just stream stuff with actual button controls and not use touch controls on your phone. So a lot of possibilities for Microsoft. But remember, they're trying to go beyond just the number of Xboxes that they have out on the market. That's always been a limiting thing for Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft up to this point. Basically, their customer base is how many consoles they can get out there. But even Sony realized, oh, we should probably be looking at streaming ourselves, whereas PlayStation Now can just be played on your computer. You don't even need like a PlayStation for that. So everyone's kind of looking at this a bit more, and Microsoft is certainly becoming very aggressive with cloud streaming. It makes sense considering how many people out there have phones, computers, tablets, smart TVs. There's a lot of customers out there that Microsoft can take generation to generation without having to sell them new hardware. Next up, let's talk about a quick update around CD Projekt and a data breach that had taken place a little after Cyberpunk 2077 came out. Remember earlier this year, they had put out at least a press release and just let everyone know, hey, we had detected a security breach on our servers and a bunch of information was stolen and it was tended to be auctioned off online. Remember, that even had like the next gen patch for Witcher 3, and it looks like it got out there because it's kind of being passed around and circulating now online. Well, it looks like it may be worse than initially thought. This was put out online, we can see from CD Projekt, where they say, "We would like to share with you a follow-up on the February security breach which targeted the CD Projekt Group. Today, we have learned new information regarding the breach and now have reason to believe that internal data illegally obtained during the attack is currently being circulated on the internet. We are not able to confirm the exact contents of the data in question, though we believe it may include current and former employee and contractor details in addition to data related to our games. Furthermore, we cannot confirm whether or not the data involved may have been manipulated or tampered with following the breach. Obviously, this is very concerning if you get to the point where employees and contractors are involved with this breach. It's one thing if like source code gets out there, like around your game, right? It's like, people are gonna be able to look through it, maybe create hacks that can be used. Maybe they can see how the game runs and talks with our servers, and they can do different things with our game online that we don't want them to do. But now you have like contractors involved who don't even necessarily work at the company, but now their information can get out there. And then it goes beyond that, how much personal data was involved with this for those contractors and employees. It does say here, CD Projekt Red, that they are working as much as they can to figure this out with different authorities pretty much around the globe right now, trying to track all of this down and make sure their employees and contractors are taken care of and safe. So we'll continue watching this, but yeah, things are not getting much better here for CD Projekt in general, especially when it comes to this security breach that they went through a couple months ago. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about another security breach, this one affecting EA, where hackers have managed to steal 780 gigabytes worth of information from EA servers. This includes like source code around some of their different games like FIFA and Battlefield, and even the engine Frostbite that they use to create those games. We can head over here to Vice.com, who had the story where they say EA confirmed to Motherboard that it had suffered a data breach and that the information listed by the hackers was the data that was stolen. In those forum posts, the hackers said they have taken the source code for FIFA 21 as well as code for its matchmaking server. The hackers also said they have obtained source code and tools for the Frostbite engine, which powers a number of EA games, including Battlefield. Other stolen information includes proprietary EA frameworks and software development kits or SDKs, bundles of code that can make game development more streamlined, and all the hackers say they have 780 gigabytes of data and are advertising it for sale in various underground hacking forum posts viewed by Motherboard. Quote from EA, "We are investigating a recent incident of intrusion into our network where a limited amount of game source code and related tools were stolen. No player data was accessed, and we have no reason to believe there is any risk to player privacy. Following the incident, we've already made security improvements and do not expect an impact on our games or our business. We're actively working with law enforcement officials and other experts as part of this ongoing criminal investigation." Is it just me, or have we been talking about actually quite a few data breaches I'd say in the last several months now? We talked about Capcom and their stuff just got thrown all over the internet. Talked about CD Projekt and that stuff went up for sale online through auction that got pulled back down. And now here we are talking about EA. Now, it is important to note they mention that nothing when it comes to their player privacy is out there. So information for anyone, I guess, who signed up for things like FIFA Ultimate Team as an example, or any EA accounts. And then also, obviously, anyone who is working there currently. But CD Projekt kind of had the same thing to say when their stuff got hacked and said they'd look more into it. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to continue following the story just in case they have an update similar to what CD Projekt had here. And of course, we'll see, I guess, what happens with the 780 gigabytes worth of information taken from EA's server, source code, all kinds of stuff. And a lot of times you'll see hackers and stuff, I guess, sell this to people who want to look through it and create their own tools to hack and modify the game, especially online, if they can see how these games are, I guess, just interacting with servers and all this, just how the game works, so they can create their own cheat tools and all these different things. So something to keep an eye on here with EA. 780 gigabytes worth of information, source code and all, just kind of out there, kind of circulating on the forums right now. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, what did you think of the Summer Game Fest presentation? 68% of you said it was okay. There was a game or two I enjoyed seeing. 10% said it was great. There was a lot there I liked. And then 22% said it was pretty bad. I didn't like much of anything there. And that's kind of the way it is with these presentations, because Jeff just got so many announcements together to try to fill up 90 minutes or so. There's probably a lot of stuff that people just didn't really care that much about. But I think as long as you come away with that, with like 2 or 3 really solid announcements for you, you'd probably look at it and say, all right, it could have been shorter, obviously, because I didn't really care about maybe the new season for Call of Duty Warzone, just as an example, or some of the other things, musical performance, for example, you still come away with some cool announcements like Elden Ring, like the Metal Slug Tactics, and other things. So not bad, I would say, for Jeff really trying to pull together Summer Game Fest, especially ahead of E3, which is where a lot of these publishers and developers are going to be putting their big announcements. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Gregory saying, Sean's got to play Balan Wonderworld before he plays Halo. So I thought about this, all right, because Sean's been talking a lot of smack on the Metroid franchise, right, with the sales and everything. I think Sean should play Balan Wonderworld if Metroid Prime 4 outsells 1-2 Switch. 1-2 Switch has sold like 3.2 million units. That's about where Sean is thinking Metroid Prime 4 is going to end up. So if Metroid Prime 4 outsells 1-2 Switch, then Sean has to stream playing through Balan Wonderworld. I'm going to see what he thinks about that on the Spawncast this weekend, so make sure you tune in for that. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Summer Game Fest. What were your favorite announcements there? What'd you think of the show overall? And then what'd you think about Elden Ring getting a release date in January? Who saw that one coming? Also, what about Microsoft and their strategy going forward when it comes to xCloud, getting it everywhere they can, which includes in your smart TV, maybe on a little game stick that they release, or a handheld device? Guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, because we'll have E3 to talk about. I'll see you guys then.